Hi everyone, this is Luxthos, and today I'm going to bring you another Diablo 4 Necromancer guide. And I just want to start things off with, this has to be my favorite build ever so far. I got a Necromancer already level 100. This is my second Necromancer that I'm leveling, and I have not had this much fun in a long time with Necromancer than with this build right here. I love Minion. I know there's 100 million builds out there that are maybe even better, do a little bit more damage, more survivability, can kill Uber Lilith, can push higher keys. But none of those that I tested was really grabbing me. And none of the Shadow Mist stuff, it was a little bit, you know, it's not as direct damage. I don't like the whole infinite Shadow Mist thing. I find it a little bit boring. Pure Bone Spear, it was missing something. I wanted to have Minion around me, and I decided, you know what? We're going to make a build that has Minion, but I also want to control a little bit of the damage output that I do. Because right now, Minions are a little bit tough to play with. You don't have access to any way to direct damage, which can be a little bit difficult when you encounter, like, blood blisters or thing like that you might do for the Echo of Lilith encounter, or a lot of other things that you might do during your leveling process. I needed that little direct damage. I needed to have a little bit more control, but I also wanted my Minion to deal a decent amount of damage, and I also wanted to have the Ring of Mendel bring up the little AoE and the little target damage that we're going to get from those minions. So overall, we landed with this build right here. I have another build that I did 1 to 100 leveling, which uses a more simplistic version of the build that doesn't need the Ring of Mendel. It doesn't need pretty much any legendary. You can get everything from aspect from dungeon. It's still really, really good. But this is my ultimate Summoner Minion build right here that I'm going to go over. Probably the build that I'll try to push as far as I can into Endgame and higher Nightmare Dungeon, Echo of Lilith as well. And this is probably going to be the build that I will be doing when I start a Necromancer again next season. This is how much fun I've been having with this. It's not perfect. There's maybe ways that we can improve this in the future. We're never quite certain, like, you know, until we do like a lot of testing over a longer period of time, also depending on tuning and all that stuff. But I'm gonna go over this build. We're gonna try to get this done as fast as possible so we can start showing you guys some gameplay. This is one of my favorite builds. Absolutely love it. It's gonna be very straightforward. We're gonna show you guys the ability. It looks very similar to the previous build. You don't use a generator, so we don't need the first 2 points here, but you need them to go to the second area. We're going to be using Bone Spear right here for some extra single target damage, but also a very nice and easy way to apply Vulnerable, and it also procs really, really well Ring of Mendel. I've had really, really good success with this. Hued Flesh is going to be picked here, 3 out of 3. So we're going to go with this one here for the increased corpse generation. We're going to go for the, obviously, Skeletal Warrior Mastery. We are going to go with Grim Harvest, Fuel by Death for the extra damage when we use corpse. We're going to go with Decrepify with the cooldown reduction. We're going to go with Skeletal Mage Mastery. We're going to go as well with Death's Embrace over here. Corpse Tendril with the Vulnerable, really, really nice. If you wanted, you could go with Blood Orbs, but we don't really have any mechanics to do this. This allows you to get, like, higher vulnerability uptime, because Bone Spear sometimes can be a little bit single target-ish, depending on the projectile and all that stuff. So this kind of helps. It helps also to trigger Vulnerable inside Suppressor Bubble without you going into them, right? So sometimes one thing you can do is throw your Golem in there, wait for a corpse to be generated from one of your melee skeleton, and then trigger the Corpse Tendril, which will trigger Vulnerable without you having to go in there with Bone Spear. So that's pretty nice. Necrotic Carapace, absolutely amazing. Your Reaper are going to allow you to get 100% uptime on Fortify, which is really, really nice. Golem Mastery, really good, because we're using Golem. We're going for all the nodes here for our skellies. So we're going to go for all the nodes. Bone Storm here is going to be really, really nice. It's going to synergize as well with our Golem, and it's going to give us additional critical strike chance and also some additional damage reduction. So that's going to be neat. For the last point here, I was experimenting with this, but we are going to go with Kellen's Edict. So Kellen's Edict, you can actually swap for any of them. If you want more direct damage, you can actually remove Kellen's Edict and actually go for Ossified Essence. You don't have a crazy amount of ways to generate essences, so your essences isn't going to be topped at all time. But for speed farming, when you just want to direct where the damage is going, Ossified Essence is really nice. For more long-term, like higher content where you're trying to stay back a little bit and not take as much damage, you are going to be running some Kellen's Edict, depending on the difficulty, but this is going to be part of the final build here. So it got recently buffed to be only 2-second while not taking damage. So it's pretty nice for this initial attack speed. The attack speed plays a very important role in this build because of the Ring of Mendel here that we're going to cover in a second. So the build triggers a lot of Ring of Mendel, which is, it's based on lucky hit, so the more lucky hit you have, the better. This is going to trigger a big explosion or a smallish explosion around the minion on their next attack, and it's going to do some nice physical damage. So everything that we do almost is physical, except for mages, which is all of our damage increase, all of this critical strike, vulnerable, all of our damage scaling is going to make this scale. It's going to make it hit right now for about 1 million. My gear isn't perfect. I know this can go way higher if I had all my Paragon points and if I had the proper gear. This could scale even higher. And the attack speed is going to allow us that, because the way that it works is when you use an ability, it triggers the skeleton next attack to trigger a Mendel effect. And if you keep attacking, you could technically trigger another proc without the skelly having time to actually use its next attack proc. So you want to make sure that they have enough attack speed to be able to expel them as fast as possible, so that if you keep generating more, you keep benefiting from them. So that's going to be really nice. I'm going to go over the gear. My gear is not perfect, but I'm going to give you an idea of what you're looking for on each of these. By the way, if I'm going fast a little bit, don't worry. The link in the description will have the entirety of the written guide. You'll be able to follow it along. So we're going to go with the Extra Skeletal Warrior. More skeleton means more damage from this every time you get a proc, so that's good. On your helm, you're going to look for nice defensive. Armor is really nice. Maximum life is really nice. Intellect, all stats, but also cooldown reduction would be very, very good. It would actually be the preferred stats. I would remove, depending on what you're looking like in your Paragon board stats, I would either remove all stats or intelligence to get some cooldown reduction on this, 100%. On the chest, we are running Disobedience. I don't even have a perfect Disobedience right now for this guy. I have one, but the chest isn't perfect, so I've been waiting for it. Right now, I'm stacking a lot of damage, but ultimately, this chest would be 4 defensive stats. The important point here is that you want the armor, you want Disobedience. On your chest, you would want total armor, you would want maximum life, and you would want any form of damage reduction. Damage reduction from close, damage reduction from distant. Any of those defensive stats would be really, really good. But right now I got some bone skill, which isn't the best. This chest right now is costing me 20 million to reroll. I'm not touching it. I'm waiting for a new one. Okay. The gloves, these are going to be really, really nice. You want that bone spear rank. It's kind of nice. You could even drop this for something else, but I kind of like having a little bit of extra damage on the bone spear. You're going to get the lucky hit, really important. Attack speed, really important. And critical strike, really, really nice. And then I have the minion attack speed on here. So the Frenzied Dead. This is going to give them a lot of attack speed. And they're going to be able to expel those Ring of Mendel proc. For the pants, we're going to go for the Bone Storm. That gives you a barrier. So that's going to be very nice for your defensive. And on the pants themselves, you want as much defensive as possible yet again. So damage reduction, max life, total armor, damage reduction against close, against distant, dodge. Those are all really, really, really good. I always try to go at least for that max life, total armor. Always nice. For the boots, you want the Skeletal Mage, because again, you want those mages to generate more essence, so you can keep spamming Bone Spear, which is nice. Dodge chances is really, really nice because it applies to your minion as well, which prevents them from getting CC'd too much. They have a chance to dodge certain abilities with this, so it's kind of nice. Intelligence, all stats, anything that has movement speed on there would be nice as well. All stats is nice to have because it allows you to complete your Paragon board rare nodes for the requirement for the stats, so that's really, really neat. This is going to be a versatile piece of gear, though. You can go also, the Corpse Tendril is really nice. Cooldown reduction on Corpse Tendril, always needed. Movement speed could be good here. So just go for whatever you find. Dodge chance as well, like I said, pretty good. For the weapon, you are going to want vulnerable damage, critical strike damage. Intelligence, all stats, really good. Also, damage to close could be nice. The only thing I would avoid is anything that's bone skill related, because your goal is going to make it so that the damage of your minion, your Mendel, and your Bone Spear all scale at the same time with all of those requirements. So having the vulnerable damage and the critical strike damage is nice because it scales this. It scales the Ring of Mendel. If you had core damage, for example, it would only scale Bone Spear. If you had Bone Spear, it will only scale this as well. So It's nice to have things that are globally going to increase your damage across the board, and that's what makes this build nice. You have a lot of different areas that can generate damage, so that's what makes this build really nice. I have on this right now Corpse Tendril. It's not even a good version, but this is going to be really, really good because this is the unifier of your build. When you pop Corpse Tendril, it's going to increase critical strike chance and critical strike damage of everything that attacks. That means your attack, your minions attack, the Ring of Mendel, right? So all of that is going to be increased by this. This is going to be really, really good. So on your weapon, again, just try to go for those big modifier. Close damage could also be good. But I like vulnerable damage, critical strike damage, and int and all stats. Really, really good on that. Make sure it's a sword as well so you get the additional critical strike damage. And make sure it's a two-ender because it makes minion damage scale even better. And again, the Corpse Tendril on there. Try to get a good one if you can. For the necklace right now, I got some damage reduction, movement speed, damage reduction to close enemy, minion attack speed. You could also get like some of the good passive in there that you could get. But right now, I kind of like this snack. I'm not going to lie. I don't know which passive I would really be looking for. Like the attack speed is really, really good for the build. The damage reduction is nice. The movement speed is nice. The double damage reduction actually is good. The important part in here is that you're going to want the Bone Spear primary to make it vulnerable. I kind of like it to have it on here. It allows Bone Spear to actually compete in damage. Obviously, you could swap this. If you wanted to have more attack speed on your minion, you could swap that. But I haven't felt the need too much. I like that my Bone Spear is actually able to direct a little bit of damage. Obviously, it's not doing anywhere near like a pure Bone Spear build in terms of damage, because that's not your main focus. But if you see a Blood Blister, you can actually try to kill it, right? You have some tools against it, and that's pretty nice. So I like having this on the necklace here. For the ring, we're going to go for the Bone Storm Consumption Corpse. This is going to allow you to trigger Flesh Eater from your Paragon board. This will allow you to trigger also a bunch of passive in your tree, and it will extend Bone Storm to give you more barrier, more durability. Really, really nice. And on the ring, you're going to go for vulnerable damage, lucky hit, critical strike chance, critical strike damage. This is the perfect ring. It's amazing. Try to look for something like this. And then Ring of Mendel, obviously. Try to get the best one that you can. What's important in here is definitely going to be the lucky hit, the minion attack speed, and the proc. Any Mendel ring will work, so just get whichever one you can find. The Thorn is actually nice on here because Thorn actually has a chance to proc lucky hit. So every time a minion gets attacked, if it triggers the Thorn, it has a chance, it has a chance to trigger the lucky hit. So that's going to be very, very nice. So that's going to be it for the gear. If there's any update on this, I'm going to try to update it in the guide because there might be things that I discover or try new stuff. So we're going to try to keep up to date on that. For the gem, I love topazes. Getting 50% damage reduction while crowd control, especially on a Necromancer that doesn't run Blood Mist. This is going to be up all the time. When you get stuck in those cold wall curtain wind stuff, I don't know what they're called. When you get stuck in just a fly slowing you, triggers 50% damage reduction, which is absolutely amazing. You're going to want this. Emerald on the weapon and obviously armor on the jewelry. If you feel like you're too squishy because you're not getting CC'd enough and it's not like, it's not providing you with that boost, Sapphire is nice or Max Life. The problem with Sapphire is it doesn't really apply to your minion because your minion are never considered to be fortified. While this applies to your minion, which means that if minion gets CC'd, they will get the damage reduction, which they get CC'd all the time, which is really, really nice. So I would either go with the Topazes or the Max Life, but I'm a big fan of the Topazes. For the Book of the Dead here, we're going to go with Skeletal Warrior Reaper to generate corpse. We are going to go with this one here for 15% corpse generation. We're going to go with the Skeletal Cold Mage to generate essence to allow you to keep using Bone Spear. And then we're going to go with Golem. We're going to go with the first one here. This is debatable, okay? So I don't see any reason to use Iron here because we already have permanent vulnerability. And the stun is nice. You could make a case for it. It's kind of nice to have that extra CC, especially whenever Corpse Tendril doesn't work if you don't have the corpse for it. But I'm a big fan of Bone Golem right now. It provides that taunt, and it just gives you this nice barrier of defensive. Having monster focusing the golem instead of you, it's just really, really nice, especially in like resource burn or when you have those nasty range monster that are going to just like attack you from really, really far. I really, really like having this guy. But you could make also a case for Blood Golem. This is kind of up to you. That's kind of what's fun right now about this. You can go for any Golem that you like. It doesn't matter. The Golem is just here to provide you with some extra defensive layer, extra tankiness, and it will also, through the Paragon board, give you extra damage, extra armor. It's just going to be really nice and a nice spot for one of your socket boards. So pick whatever you want. I'm a big fan right now of the taunt from this one. I could also see myself going with 15% damage reduction as I'm pushing higher content, so that could be neat. For the Paragon board, we're going to glance over really, really quickly here, but the full detailed version is going to be in the D4 build because I don't have all my Paragon points right now. This is not complete, but you are going to go for Amplify in the first node here. You are going to go for Dead Razor here to increase all of the minion nodes around, and you're going to go get your legendary nodes and some of the damage nodes around. You are going to go for Control here in the Scent of Death board. So the first one was Cult Leader. The second one is going to be Scent of Death. This is going to give you some really, really nice critical strike damage. I don't have all of it yet. I'm missing a massive, massive amount of critical strike damage right now, just to let you know. So the damage is going to scale even higher than what you're about to see. So that's going to be it. You're going to go for the Control glyph here. For the Flesh Eater board here, you're going to go for some Exploit. That glyph here is insane. And again, I don't even have all the agility node right now that would scale this even higher. So I'm still missing quite a lot of damage on this one here. We're missing 2 big increase here that would pump up this even more. And then on the last Golem board here, you're going to go all the way. The nice part about this is here, right here. So you're going to get additional damage while your Golem are active. I'm trying to hit a little bit more willpower here. I'll try to see if I can squeeze some additional willpower on my helmet. Maybe try to get more all stats to try to hit that willpower node. I'm also missing some node around the board that I could hit for some additional power. But the full board is going to be completed on the D4 build. Again, you're getting the nice damage reduction here. This is just really, really, really nice to have this. And then all the way up here, you're going to be using Territorial. It's going to give you damage to close enemy, and it's going to give you damage reduction as well to close enemy. Enough talking. I know this has been a very long, rambling video, but I'm really, really, really excited about this build. It plays really well. It's super smooth, and it's super fun. So I really wanted to showcase it, be sure that I went into as much detail as possible. And the really cool thing is that you can start forming a build similar to this from level 1. With my previous video, you'll be able to see, I'll put the link in the description, the build that I was using to get to this point before you get the Mendel, before you get the Bone Storm Legendary, before you get those key pieces for this build. You can just have a build that uses Army of the Dead, no Mendel ring, and you'll be doing just fine. All the way to 100 if you're unlucky. But as soon as you get that Mendel, as soon as you get those Bone Storm, make sure you swap and go to this version. It's been doing really, 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 really well. So let's go. We are doing a little 54 right now, Alder Wood. So we're just gonna get in there. Sometimes this place can be quite nasty with the Quell Rats, but everything should be fine. This is again not the most meta overpowered build of all time, but it is, in my opinion, the most fun. This is the build that I've had the most fun with. Something that is going to be very important with this build. Make sure that you Decrepify a lot. Decrepify is a very high key component here in getting your cooldown reduction. Prioritize your Decrepify over Bone Spear a lot. When you're going to get Suppressor enemy, you're just going to struggle. That's just what it is. Your entire mage team is getting blocked. That's just the nature of it. There's no way this affix doesn't get changed. It's one of the worst one in my opinion. And this entire key is Suppressor in it. Isn't that fun? Isn't that pleasant? There we go. So we're just going to get in there, and we're going to try to get rid of it. When you get a Suppressor enemy, make sure you put them against a wall. That way your Bone Spear can try to reflect in the back here. Try to not get hit by this tree, but, I mean, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Some of these enemies are nasty. Try to have your Golem charge in a little bit. Try to get those rat, especially those Thorn Beast, to actually, like, block the damage a little bit. Get that Decrepify out, get that damage reduction, and just watch your minion proc some Mendel Ring up in there. It's really, really fun. Make sure you keep healing them. Press your Golem ability on CD, Corpse Tendril on CD. The best thing, though, is definitely getting that Decrepify out. Getting that cooldown reduction started. Don't get charged by these like I've been doing. Higher density definitely works well for this build instead of, like, big beasts like these. Gonna pop this as soon as possible. We're gonna go in. Once you have Bone Storm, it's pretty neat. You can actually be quite tanky as long as you're not getting hit by massive swing. That barrier is gonna save you a lot of damage. So that's why it's so important to get the Decrepify out, because you want to reduce that cooldown of that ability, right? You want to make sure that you're in Bone Storm as much as possible, because that's when you're really going to do really well. You're gonna get some nice damage reduction, some nice barrier, some extra crit. It's just really good, right? So you want to make sure you're in that state as much as possible. I'm walking all over traps because I'm blind. There we go. The Decrepify. We're gonna go for the taunt and then the barrier. We're gonna get in. We're gonna try to get one corpse. When you pop the Bone Storm, because it is consuming corpses, you're not gonna be able to immediately get the corpse tendril out. But as soon as you do, everything is gonna instantly just explode and melt, except the bearer of the suppressor, because it's not getting attacked by your mages. It's not getting attacked by your shard from your bone spear. So that's just the nature of it. When you have a key that has a lot of suppressor in it, you're just not going to have the best time of your life. But honestly, it affects Necromancer for pretty much every build except the Shadow Mist build that just sneaks underneath and just blow them up. I'm just not a big fan of the Shadow Mist and the Minion Shadow Mist variant that has been popping out. I've tried playing around with it, and I felt like I had zero control over where my damage was going. And it just felt... The best way that I found to explain it is, you know how like mechanical keyboards are really fun because you get like a response when you're pressing a key, right? Well, Shadow Mist doesn't feel like that to me for some reason. It feels very unresponsive in its damage. Okay, right now I'm facing some nasty stuff right now. This is... Okay, there we go. We got Bone... We can go back in here with Bone Storm. There we go. I was facing some really bad combo. We had some suppressor, some poison, some... You know, everything was piling up here. They're definitely putting my survivability to the test right now. Let me tell you that. We're fully being tested at the moment. Chugging potions, but that's fine. That's fine. Those are a nasty combination of affix. I'm also charging in a lot, so there we go. We're gonna make sure we're... Oh, there we go. We got our things back. I'm having some big health swing right now because I'm running in a lot without Disobedience properly stacked, and I'm getting charged by these bulls. So, but normally your health is not gonna fluctuate that much if you build enough defensive. My chest has no defensive on it at the moment right now, so I could scale that a lot more. Again, this is an alt Necromancer. There's definitely a lot of things that I can do to improve my gear and finish up the Paragon board and all that good stuff. We're still 92 though. We're still doing pretty great. But yeah, you can play a little bit more passive, you know, like let your first golem kind of taunt in the first place. Also, if you don't get charged like I am every time, it kind of helps. You can just let the golem, you know, like taunt the first monster, then you go for the tendril, and then you just go in and you just clean everything up. You're a little bit dependent on the proc of the Mendel Ring, but usually it happens pretty often, especially when you have your Bone Storm. Right now, I don't against this boss, so we're going to be at the mercy of our procs here. We're going to see how well we do. Usually, it doesn't take too long here for these bosses to just melt, depending on the procs we get. There we go. So, the first half, we didn't get that many proc, and then everything procs at once, and then the boss just literally exploded. So, not the best key ever. It's kind of lowish density, and it has a lot of one-shot monsters, so I managed to not die, which is pretty good. But I just wanted to give you guys an overview. There's much that I can improve on this character specifically. There's a lot that I could improve on this guy to increase my survivability, especially this armor right here is lacking a lot of 2 potential stats that I could have for damage reduction, so that could be really good. And obviously a little bit of item level over pretty much everything. But in general, the build has been an absolute blast to play. I'm loving doing keys with this. I feel like I can run in a little bit more with the Bone Storm. The minion are providing a nice source of damage thanks to the Mendel Ring. I've even done some tests of unequipping the Mendel Ring, and I was actually able to still clear keys quite effectively. So the Mendel Ring does carry the build 100%, but the minions are actually doing a okay-ish amount of damage. and your Bone Spear is actually doing a okay-ish amount of damage. So it's just a nice combination. If you are getting CC, your minion can still do a little bit of damage. If they're getting CC'd or something needs a little bit more targeting, the Bone Spear comes up and is able to give a little bit of control, especially for those blood blisters, those nightmare portals. You know what I'm talking about. All of those mechanic that needs focusing sometimes and your minions are just not listening to you. That's a good spot for me to have the Bone Spear. It plays really well. It's super fun. It has a nice defensive layer, and it feels like a Necromancer. It feels like you have actually the little army around you ready to take some hit for you, and it feels good. It feels good to feel like a Necromancer Lord. So make sure if you have any question to ask them in the comment section. I'll try to answer as much as possible. I'll try to keep the build updated, and if you have any other question, you can head over on Twitch as well. I'm pretty much live every single day on Twitch. If you want to know more information or just come by and say hi, I would really appreciate it. If you like the video, leave a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe to the channel as well. I would really appreciate it if you enjoy the content and you want more stuff like this. I'm trying as much as possible to come up with new stuff for you guys, so if you guys are enjoying it, just let me know. That's it for this video, though. If you enjoyed it, let me know, and we'll see you guys in Sanctuary. Bye-bye, my friends.